Welcome back to another segment of Idle News, where I share the latest findings across the education and learning and development industry to keep you up to date and just share some opinions, insights, and of course, I want to hear your opinions, insights as well. So our first one has to be about the U.S. Department of Education. That seems to be a trend because it's a big deal, right? And so there were some major layoffs in the education sector. Nearly 50% of the U.S. Department of Education's workforce is being cut. And so the projections of up to 72,000 teachers losing their positions due to budget cuts, not to mention the amount of teachers that are unsatisfied with their current positions due to the changes in the children's behavior since 2019, administration, and the list goes on. And now, of course, what's happening to the Department of Education is not making teachers feel any more secure. And so, of course, as L&D professionals, this might mean for us an influx of educators, but that's really not anything new, except for it might be new in like a bigger scale. Instead of just a mass exodus, it's an exodus plus layoffs are having a part to do in that. And so I guess, for those already in the learning and development field, what are some of the ways that you are thinking about making sure to stand out in the crowd? And for those that are getting laid off or wanting to leave teaching, well, there's the opportunities, right, in learning and development, because you do possess transferable skills, right? You'll still need some training and a portfolio and so on, but there are a lot of transferable skills. Now, the other thing is that Trump's ordered dismantling of the education department, but it's not closing entirely, right? So advocacy groups, including teachers unions, the NAACP, have filed lawsuits to prevent the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education. So this legal action actually underscores this whole contentious nature of this move and the proposed educational reforms, and of course the impact on our education programs here in the United States. And so I guess what I'm wondering, right, is if the central oversight weakens, learning becomes more decentralized, which of course is an opportunity for those already in learning and development, right? You can lead training initiatives across private, nonprofit, and government sectors, but also there are fewer unified funding streams. So I know a lot of companies in our industry go out and seek government contracts in learning. And so I also wonder how these legal battles might affect the continuity and funding of educational initiatives that many in our industry rely on. And what role do we play in advocating for policies that support educational infrastructures? Now, the layoffs are not just in the government. We've seen more layoffs, especially in the tech sector, but it's more than just the tech sector. I mean, Chevron, Porsche, and more, right? And so with all these layoffs just in Q1 alone of this year, right? Q1 ends like in just a couple of days. And so they are pivoting to AI-driven solutions. There's also the electric vehicle transition struggles. And so when R&D, research and development budgets get slashed, training budgets are right behind them. And I think a lot of people in our industry are feeling a little bit of that right now. And so projects are being stalled. Contracts seem to be frozen. A lot of people are subsisting on projects that have carried over from last year. The word that I keep hearing is uncertain, which kind of leads me to the place where we are right now about, not only are people feeling uncertain, and of course that affects, the learning and development projects and teams, and of course there are layoffs and so on and so forth. But I also am thinking that a lot of these layoffs have a lot to do with AI And, it's kind of like a said, unsaid thing that business decision leaders are starting to see, the cost associated with learning and development. And they're starting to think, oh, well, AI is starting to replace so many of our other pieces of our workforce. Why can't it also replace training? Right. And what I actually see, this is just another example of the pendulum, right? This is swinging hard in the direction where like, we don't need learning designers because we can just have AI do it, right? They're swinging hard towards that automation, cutting costs in these uncertain times. And that, they just want to replace anybody and everybody with machines. It's not just our industry, but the truth is, right, AI does not eliminate the need for instructional designers. As a matter of fact, I hope you walk away today and realize it actually magnifies the need for learning architects, because really what happens if you are just using AI to create training content is you're turning those AI tools into content vending machines, right? So and we've been here before. We've already done the content vending machine. We've already done the info dumps, so to speak, where you just create information, click next courses. We've already evolved past that. And if we just use AI to continue to create more of those info dumps, well, then we're right back what we struggled and are still struggling to get out of. And so we don't want to get back to that click next. Yes, AI can deliver content faster, but delivery isn't design. You know that, I know that, and we've got to make sure that our business leaders know that, right? The AI agents still need architects, someone who understands human learning, behavior change, context, relevance, equity, and of course, engagement, right? And so that someone is you. It's an idol. So you're not just a learning strategist, right? You are a transformation designer. So right now, the pendulum is hard on the other side, but I know, just like even with social media, right? The pendulum swung hard. We thought, oh, we don't need to interact face to face, right? And then we went full on, okay, we are no longer face to face in 2020. And what happened? What was the first thing we did as soon as we could get out of the house? We were crowded. We were crowding, we're going back to music, and conferences got bigger and everything got bigger when it came to that face to face. And so I see the same thing happening with AI. We think, oh, it's going to go all this way, and we don't need instructional design. We don't need people. We'll just have AI bots run our companies. But it's going to come back the other way when it actually illuminates the need for humans. Now, of course, our skills have to update and keep up with the trends, and you'll need to be able to build and use AI in your learning solutions, but it does not completely remove the need for instructional design. But there are people who think that it does at this moment. So that's what we're feeling, right? That's what we're feeling right now. And so the most important thing that you can do right now in the learning and development industry is increase and update and continue to grow your AI skills alongside your instructional design ones. I found this on TikTok and I thought, man, you gotta see this. In just 200 years, right? In just 200 years, we went from that horse and buggy to like flying saucers, right? And so this major technological shift, we're all just, in many ways trying to figure it out. Now, there's something I want to show you, speaking of technology, and maybe you've already seen this before, but if you haven't, you're going to love it. I am on the ChatGPT paid plan, and I want to show you the beauty of how you can integrate Canva directly with ChatGPT. I almost called it Chippy. I've named my ChatGPT Chippy. You explore GPTs, and when you explore GPTs, whoop, come on. Okay, explore them. Close the sidebar. Pardon me, I want to show you. I've already installed it. Okay, here we go. What? You go here, search for them, Canva. And there it is. So use this one, Canva. Add that GPT. And you can go from just describing what you want to create and then opening it in Canva, which is awesome because you think, oh, is it just going to create an image? No, it's not just going to create an image. Okay, well, shucks. Okay, here we go. So for instance, informational quote, blah, blah, blah. You can put in there what you want the quote to be. So I will just say something like learning is doing. Let me go ahead and stretch this out a little bit so you can see. All right, and so now what it's going to do is it's actually going to create a couple of Canva creations just right here in ChatGPT. And when I click on it, okay, that's horrible. When I first did this test, it gave me some pretty nice look. Okay, we'll just say it's this one. We'll like this one better. Look, it actually opens right here in Canva and everything is editable, right? It's not like it's just creating an image for you. It creates an editable Canva document. And of course, you can go in here and you can make changes like, oh, give me this background, make it animated, make it illustrated, yada yada, and then you can open it straight up in Canva. What a time saver. All right, so I also love to bring up things that are being said on LinkedIn from people in our industry or even at least adjacent to it. This recent one I found, of course, I know it's hard to read for you. You can go find her. Her name is Dr. Philippa Hardman. She's always talking about AI and the intersection between AI and learning and development. And what is interesting about this post is that she's talking about AI agents and how AI agents are actually breezing through online courses in minutes, right? They're submitting assignments, answering quizzes, posting in discussions. And the real question that Philippa brings up is that this isn't about academic integrity, right? This isn't about somebody taking their training on the job. The fact that an AI agent can breeze through training or courses in minutes has a lot more to say about the way that training or that course was designed than it does about somebody, not being interested in the learning and using an AI agent to do, the requirements, right? So instead of, I think what it's exposed, and this is what, Dr. Philippa brought up, is that, agentic AI didn't break online learning. Right? It just ripped the curtain off what we've known all along, which is most asynchronous learning isn't designed for transformation. It's designed for compliance, right? Presentation, quiz, presentation, quiz, presentation, quiz. Right? If you're an IDLE Academy member, you don't design training that way. But a lot of people have design training and still do design training that way. And learners aren't lazy. Right? They're bypassing it because the design was never meaningful to begin with, right? And so now more than ever, we need our, as instructional designers, true learning architects, to build experiences that AI can't fake, right? And that learners won't want to skip, right? So when you design instruction that is problem-centered, scenario-based, real-world application, an AI agent can't breeze through that, right? Because you have to go through, the process of application and scenarios and so on and so forth. And so, let AI be the co-pilot, right? But it's time for us to make sure that we are, keeping this in mind as well, right? Like AI agents shouldn't be able to, breeze through your training in just a couple of minutes, right? Because you're not designing for engagement, growth, and real world application. You're not designing for humans, right? You're building for the bots. And this is just something that, it's just a new thing for us, to keep in mind whenever we are designing training. And so definitely give her a follow. Incredible content all the time. This one I actually found was new. Again, apologies for you not being able to read it, but basically what she's talking about is that while praise feels good, progress feels better, right? Praising your learners, stop praising your learners and challenge them instead, right? Maybe there's this dangerous lie that's floating around in learning and development that making things easy is making things supportive, right? But comfort isn't the goal for us, right? Competence is. And I think that's Surishti's point, right? We've seen it time and time again. We could talk about participation trophies, encouraging affirmations, and we just wonder, okay, we've given them the badge. Why don't they feel confident in what they just learned? Because real confidence doesn't come from compliments, does it? Right? It comes from capability. It comes from taking action. And so she talks about how she's really obsessed with the MAPS framework, and she lays it out, right? Meaningful mastery, ascending difficulty, progress visibility, strategic struggle, right? Struggle with guidance, with feedback, with purpose, all things that we know as instructional designers, and a great reminder to make sure that we are including, the struggle. And what do we know also about the learning pit, right? When learning is really happening, it is challenging, and your learners should be falling in a pit and then rising out of it. And then that's when they really feel the impact of that learning. All right. So again, right, this is just tied into that we are here to design for transformation.
Hold on to find someone who'll be there for you, 'cause that's all that really matters in the end. Find somewhere you can come home to. Find someone that'll die for you, 'cause that's all that really matters in the end. It's love, love, love. 'Cause that's all that really matters in the end.
Okay, I saw this and I just loved it, right? Obviously, this is for the teachers in the room, but I think anyone, who's interested in the education sector at all is, this is a great example of something different that we haven't seen. I haven't seen it before. I think it's a brilliant idea of the principal, instead of having an office and students coming to him and he has to react to everything that's happening, he now has a roll cart, right? He has a rolling office, and he's making touch points and going exactly and always being there, and fist bumping the students, and basically being proactive instead of reactive. And while I know this is specific for K through 12 education, what are the ways that we as the learning and development department could be a little more proactive instead of reactive, like this principle? And so thought that was really cute, and I wanted to share that. Now, if you're interested in instructional design, or maybe just finding out more about it, we have the free Become an Idol Challenge. It's a free 5-day course to make sure that instructional design is right for you. We show you what you'll need to do in order to land a job in this industry, and much more. So you can go check that out at idlecourses.com/live challenge. And with the cuts of learning and development departments and so on, it's also an opportunity for instructional designers to start thinking about taking on some contract work, because it always happens this way, right? If there's layoffs from full-time roles, what rises in demand? They don't just completely stop training, right? It becomes a demand for contractors. And so if you're an instructional designer and you've never done a contract, you might want to start developing those skills. It makes you more flexible and agile as far as being able to fluctuate with that market. And if you're a leader, of course, that has reduced the capabilities in your own learning and development team, and you need contractors, well, Idle Talent has a fully vetted bench of over 130 instructional designers, e-learning developers, LMS admins, project managers, and so on. You can reach out if you want to find out more. And then we are continuing to do our webinars. I thought this one was really in line with the news today. So in May 8th, you can go sign up for idlecourses.com/presents and sign up for Sharon's webinar on AI course development Kickstarters. Because just like I said, right, AI isn't going away. And the more that you can learn how to leverage AI for your learners and for your own design process, the better and the more job security you will position for yourself. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me and being a part of the Idle News Show. Of course, I love to hear any comments if you watch this recording. And I will see you in 2